Okay, welcome back, everybody. I hope you enjoyed our musical intermezzo. Big thank you for everyone that's sharing their photos of how they're watching NextM and all of the inspiring questions that we're getting. So please keep doing that because, as you saw, we were able to answer quite a lot of them. The next speaker is joining us from London. His name is Mark Reed, and he's the CEO of WPP. Which means he's basically my boss's boss, which is funny to me because Marion is my boss, and now I get to watch her talking to her boss, Mark.
It's a boss inception.
Exactly, bossception. He has been our CEO for the past 2 years, but he has been a part of the WPP family for a long time before that already. As I mentioned, he will be interviewed by Marion Koopman, and Ralph van Lieshout will once again help her. So please, the floor is yours, guys.
I hope so. I hope it will help Marion.
Yes, you
there
will.
We go.
Yes, you will. Good afternoon, Mark.
Good afternoon.
I'm delighted that you are here in the Netherlands.
Exactly. My spaceship has landed.
Yes,
Good.
well, great. You're so welcome. You're so welcome. How are you doing there?
I'm fine. Well, you can see I'm locked away in my attic up here.
I see.
Where I've been for the last 5 weeks, and my wife and kids let me out, in the evenings briefly.
Yes, I heard it.
But like you, it's been a sort of very busy few weeks, hasn't it? But anyway, we'll get through it.
Yes,
Definitely
we get through it, and it is very busy, more busy than ever, huh?
That's the bizarre thing, isn't it? I mean, it's one of those times where, however serious the financial situation is, and clearly it is very serious.
Yes.
There's so many good things going on at the same time. I see with our clients, I see across WPP, I see with our people, I see more broadly in society that actually, it's hard to be totally depressed about what's happening because there's many, as I said, many good things going on. So
yeah, that's true. Just from a personal view, do you have a daily routine at your home?
Well, my alarm clock used to go off at 6:30.
Okay.
A little bit later now, and it's hard to get out of bed much before about 7:15, I have to say. So that sort of routine has gone. I do try and go for a walk. I have lunch with my kids. Everyone, we're all sort of together all the time. They claim they haven't seen me any more now than they have done in the past, which I think is a little bit unfair. And I ever hear these sort of shouts from downstairs during the whole homeschooling experience, which is sort of what we're on. But no, I mean, it's a sort of relentless mix of video calls, like everyone, I think, video calls and video meetings. And I toggle between 7 different video apps I now have installed on my phone, Zoom, BlueJeans, Teams, Skype for Business, GoToMeeting, WebEx. I'm trying to think of any others, but there's quite a lot of apps on my phone that weren't there before.
No.
Yeah. Are you teaching your kids yourself as well?
Well, I'm trying to see, my son's bedroom is behind me, and I'm trying to work out whether he's going to sort of become like a business genius by sort of impacting his calls at the age of 7. But I'm not convinced. My daughter wants to become a farmer, so it's clearly not working everywhere at the moment.
What is the most important question that you gave to them today? Most important lesson that you gave to them today?
My most important lesson? No, there haven't been any lessons that I can share with you. There's quite a lot of shouting I heard.
Okay.
But, my daughter throws herself in and she's there with the headphones glued to her head, staring intensely at the iPad. I think the best thing for them is they've been asking for an iPad, and we told them they couldn't have one until about 12. And now they have one at 10 and at 7. And my daughter's very she's very unhappy that my son, age 7, has an iPad.
Yes.
When she was 10.
It's unfair.
It's unfair, yeah. It's unfair for her. Yeah, it's true. Okay, well, Mark, to some serious questions, of course. Yeah. I guess we all experience that the digital transformation, and you always say the technical and transformation is speeding up enormously. And as you said yourself, we are putting 10 years of innovation in 4 weeks. Everything seems possible in the sudden. Could you name some things that you are speeding up with within WPP that were perhaps maybe more difficult before the COVID-19 came along?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot we're doing, I'd say, to accelerate our strategy. But to sort of deal with the tactical points, take Microsoft Teams. We've been trying to adopt it within the company for 5 years, and we've seen a 60-fold increase in adoption, just in the last 6 weeks.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So now we have to rationalize the number of different platforms we're using at the same time as well, which is the other half of the strategy. But I think what it says to me, which is the things we've been trying to do at WPP over the last 18 months in terms of simplify the company, integrate sort of analog and digital, put technology at the heart of everything that we're doing, and deal with the balance sheet issues, have all been the right things to do. And I think the only thing for us to do now is accelerate them. And I see, really strong acceleration of the strategy in a number of respects. One, I see great creative work taking place despite the challenges of doing creative work. And I think those clients that do excellent work will cut through. I'd call out the work that Ogilvy have done for Dove. It was run in the Netherlands, it was run in the US and Canada and the UK. And they did that work, in 6 days. Now, it probably would have taken longer than that in the past. So I think the ability to get great ideas done really quickly is important. Yeah. I see people collaborating in ways they never have done before, sharing ideas, sharing case examples. I see things being integrated at a country level. I think in the Netherlands, if we've been in this situation 08, 09, every WPP company would have done its own thing. Now we have a much more sort of coordinated approach, and I think that makes it fairer and easier for people inside the company and simpler for people to manage. So I think lots of what we've done has put us in a position to make this easier to manage. It's not easy to manage, but somewhat easier. And I think that we'll get through it. And to touch just on the financial point, we did put an announcement a couple of weeks ago around suspending our dividend, i.e. not paying it now, but looking at it later in the year. My view was, although our debt is the lowest it's been for more than 10 years, companies that are financially resilient will come out of this in the best position. And I want WPP to be a financially resilient company. That will put us in the best position, through this situation and coming out the other side of it as well.
Yeah. Yeah, you did. And could you describe how WPP is impacted by the crisis financially, and maybe tell us a bit more about the measures you have announced to navigate WPP through this crisis?
I mean, look, no company is immune from the virus, if you like. And, clearly our industry is probably going to be one of the more impacted industries, and WPP within it. Now, having said that, we're not in the airline business or the restaurant business or the cinema business, right? So, what's amazed me is people are working, they're busier than they've ever been. We sent 100,000 people effectively to work from home over a weekend, and I would say we didn't miss a beat in terms of the work. We did a fair amount of preparation, having seen what was going on in China and then Italy behind that. But I think it's pretty impressive what we've done, and we have, if you go to Hogarth today, and you look inside their office, all the computers are working, but they're all being controlled by people at home. We came up with a technology solution to allow high-end computers to be used remotely by people from home managing the computers in the office. And tremendous amount of preparation has gone in, and I think that's put us in a position where we can work for our clients pretty well seamlessly. Now, having said that, the supply side is fine. What I worry about is the demand side. And there's no doubt that, our revenues will be impacted. As I said, like any other company, and clients will look at, advertising and marketing spend, and, inevitably they will reduce it. All I would say to clients that are looking at that is, firstly, I think actually all the evidence is that consumers expect companies to communicate at this time. We did some research and said that 84% of Americans want to hear what companies are doing. So I think that it's important to talk to your consumers because that's what they expect. And seen work in the Netherlands from VodafoneZiggo that does that. I think secondly, the evidence from previous recessions is that those companies that do continue to spend come out of it in a stronger position. And that's not saying waste money, but it is saying that if you're a company and you look at marketing as an investment, the cost of marketing is currently low. So you will have a higher return.
That's true. Yeah.
When it's higher. And if you look at what Unilever did in 08, 09, they maintained or increased their spend, and they had a number of very strong years that came out of it. And I think the third thing I'd say is that, there's innovation like nothing else at the moment, right? The pace of innovation has accelerated. And if you're not in market figuring out what's going on, how on earth are you going to respond? You can't just sit on the sofa for 8 weeks and come back and figure out what you're going to do. So I think that those clients who are in market trying to figure out how to reach their consumers, what to sell, how to sell them, will be the companies that come out of this most successfully. And I think that is actually even more important than the first 2 points.
Yeah, I have a question about that, because what you see is that most experts are now saying, because of this situation, the budgets will shift faster to so-called digital media, but also sooner to performance media, right? Because that's where you get your direct revenue. And as you mentioned already, there's a lot of evidence that brands that keep investing in their brands will get out of this crisis stronger. But of course, you need to have the budgets and the ability to do that. So my question is really, do you think that branding is a luxury in times of crisis?
No, I don't think it's a luxury, and I think it's too simplistic to say brands will just shift digitally, because that's clearly not what's happening. I was talking to someone that sells household appliances, and they were saying they're finding daytime television an extremely effective way of driving demand. Now, that's far from performance media. I mean, I guess you could include it in that if you really wanted it. It's certainly not digital media. I also think that what clients have tended to do is, keep television to some extent because they've made commitments and it's harder to get out of those commitments, but repurpose them to brand messages at a time when consumers can't buy. And then I'm sure there'll be a push to short-term branding. But I think that short-term performance metrics. But I think at a time when people can't shop, there's not much point spending money on performance media, right? So I think the most important thing actually clients need to do is figure out how they can activate retail channels and how they can make it easier for their customers to shop with them and buy things. That's probably the biggest area I would focus on if I were a client.
Yeah.
So you see a fast rise also, of course, in the marketplaces like Amazon, who are taking really advantage of this situation.
Well, Amazon are clearly going to be the big winner. If there's a single company that's going to be a winner, it's going to be Amazon. I mean, you could look at TikTok and the House Party. There's a few apps that are more popular: WhatsApp, TikTok, House Party, that seem to sort of spiked in terms of usage. But I think clearly, as a company, Amazon is going to be the biggest winner, and I think it puts pressure on the other platforms to think about how they're going to get further into commerce. So I think that really figuring out that sort of integration of marketing and sales, or media and commerce, is the biggest trick at the moment. And we're I think a really interesting idea that we're working with one UK supermarket. There's no reason why we can't do this in the Netherlands, and I'd encourage you to do it, just to figure out like booking slots for going in store. So I can see that. I guess you're social distancing. I haven't got my
sure.
1.5
meter. Yeah.
1.5 meters in the Netherlands, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's 2 meters in the UK, but we're
we can be closer then.
we're even more uncomfortable in our skins than you are. They're 2 meters apart. But I think that so we've built for a supermarket a booking app so you can get a slot to visit the supermarket. So it's going to be because this isn't going to go away, I don't think, anytime soon. We're in this for the next 12 months, and so the ability to spin up apps, in a matter of days and use technology really quickly to let things happen. I was talking to a friend whose wife runs a clothing brand, and they're running sort of live Instagram sales events that are driving really meaningful sales through online channels. And they're just trying to figure out, if my shop is closed, how can I reach my customer? How can I make it easy for my customer to buy? How can I get that product, in the hands of the customer? And Amazon really is not a shopping platform, is it? Not a great shopping experience.
No.
It's a buying platform,
It's
right?
a buying platform, eh? It's not really experience. Yeah.
The buying platform. So how can we create shopping experiences for customers on digital? That's a really important question.
Yeah, great. I think, of course, you are the chief of a global agency network, and you're of course dealing with agencies in parts of the world already in careful recovery. We like to hear a lot more about that. And
Positive news, please.
Yeah, we like to have the positive news.
Good news.
Yeah, and well, I have two questions. How do you navigate between areas already coming back from the recovering, and what can we learn in Europe from China, for instance?
Yeah, I think if you look at China, I mean, it's the current view. I say our view is going to be like a swoosh-shaped recovery. I think is the, in between a U and a V, sort of a Nike-shaped recovery.
Okay.
I think China is undergoing that. Clearly February and March were depressed. April has bounced back, actually relatively strongly. I think those companies that, as I said before, those companies that invested more in digital channels and those companies that continued to market were the ones that were ready to come out of it. So I'd say, firstly, be ready, make preparations, because consumers will have money to spend and you want to get a disproportionate share of it. At the same time, I don't think people are going to have as much money to spend because sadly, many jobs will be lost, many businesses will be closed, and I don't think the economy is going to open, all in one go.
Yeah.
I think that planning and being ready, and that's why I think it's really important for governments to start to sort of set out timetables when business can get back to work. Not because I think business is more important than health, but because, ultimately the economy does pay for all of this and give us all jobs. And secondly, I think if we have a date and a plan to work towards, then business can figure out how to manage between now and then. I think the worst thing is this sort of uncertainty of, are we going to be, am I going to be locked in here the next 2 weeks or the next 6 weeks? And in that situation, I think business becomes paralyzed. So I think that people have to start to get their heads around sort of coming back to work. And so I think in China, they came back very quickly. I was speaking to our team in Shanghai on Friday, and they were saying that, walking the streets in Shanghai is like it was before the crisis.
Really?
Beijing, yeah, I mean, people are in bars, people in restaurants. There are restrictions, people were wearing masks. But our offices, were, our offices are pretty much as busy as they were before. We can't get more than 12 people in an elevator at any one time, which is probably the biggest capacity constraint. If you've ever been to our office in Shanghai, there's a normal capacity is about 36, what I can figure out.
It almost feels like a really surreal situation to think about that now. People walking on the streets and being in bars.
I was wondering, how do you drink beer with a mask on?
Yeah, well, you straw.
Yeah.
With a hole in the middle of the mask. I mean, that's a very good question. Are we going to be wearing masks? I think that I don't know what the view is of the Netherlands. My personal view is that probably we would be better off wearing masks. However uncomfortable they are, and it might not protect you as an individual, but if you have the virus, it will stop you giving it to other people. Every step that we can do to stop people doing it, to stop it passing on and lower the curve, is going to be better. So I think there'll be some things. There's clearly some trade-offs to make between, I hope not between financial security and health, but between, degrees of uncomfortableness and things that we can do and things that we can't do.
Well, I think it's good to hear that China is reopening again. I think we are looking forward to that. In the Netherlands, the primary schools will halfway open on the 11th of May. And they are planning for the secondary schools at the 1st of June. So, slightly the kids are back going to school. I think that's good because then, we have more freedom to work and of course, then we are also thinking about going back to the office. But I'm very curious because at this moment, a lot of clients are talking with me and even my own people. And they say, okay, well, Marion, how healthy is WPP in this crisis?
Yeah, I mean, look, I said to you before, our net debt at the end of the year was, 1.5 billion pounds. At the beginning of last year, it was 4.5 billion pounds. So we've, really significantly reduced our debt, suspending the dividend and the share buyback, saved us another £1 billion this year. And so I think that we've done all we can to put the company in a strong position from a balance sheet perspective. Obviously, we need to, if our revenues decline, we are looking at our cost, and we announced a series of measures in terms of salary sacrifice, moving people to part-time working, and stopping new hires and increases, and looking at freelancers, and so really every cost bucket that we can look at, we've been reviewing with a critical eye. We do get at some point to the need of whether we need to let people go permanently, and I think it is going to be hard for us to manage through the next year without permanent headcount reduction. But we are doing everything that we can to minimise that. Yeah. And I think that actually I've been really impressed by the way people inside the company have come together, and a real feeling that actually, people would rather, sacrifice part of their salary or move to a 4-day week or 3-day week than be furloughed or something else. One of the realities is that WPP is still open for business. We're not a airline with no planes flying. And, I think if you talk to people inside the company, most people are probably busier than they were.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Planning campaigns, planning media, all of that good stuff that we need to do. So I think that, we're going to navigate this as best we can. And I've said, unfortunately, we can't rule out, permanent headcount reduction, but we're going to do everything that we can to make sure that those are the last steps that we take, and, try and protect as many jobs as we can as we go through this. And I think, for our clients that are there, I think they should know that the company's in a strong position financially, certainly as strong or stronger than any of our peers. Mm-hmm. And we are, as a leadership team, doing all we can to, be the most resilient partner to our clients. My view is that there'll be a premium on resilience. Yeah. Part of the reason we've got ourselves in this mess is there's no resilience built into the system. There's no spare capacity. There's no spare capacity in our national health services. There's no spare capacity in terms of protection equipment. We all became dependent, thinking we could all go and buy it from China at the same time, mm-hmm. and then China shut down. Yeah. So it's not easy. We sort of created some of this mess ourselves, and so I think that being a resilient company, by which I mean financially and operationally resilient, I think is really important. And Hogarth have really been fantastic for us in getting work made around the world. We can make TV commercials in China if we need to make them. We can use CGI, animation, stock photography. And it's amazing what you can do, when you have to. Necessity is the mother of invention, as they say. Yeah. So, I think that we're in a strong position. As I said to you before, it can be depressing to think about sort of a likely output, but I think that we also have to be reassured by what people will do.
Yeah, I have a question about that related to the resilience that people within WPP, but also with our clients can have personally, because we had a talk with Jeroen Dijsselbloem before, which is the former Minister of Finance in the Netherlands, and he navigated us through the financial crisis, and he was involved in the crisis in Greece as well. We asked him, and I would like to ask you the same question. So, because he has dealt with a few crises, I suppose you have dealt with a few crises before as well. But what are the personal traits, and what can people really do for themselves to get out of this crisis, or to be in a good position to get out of this crisis?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I'd say is, this is none of our fault, right? And you have to, you have to recognise that, and you have to recognise that the metrics for success are different. I was speaking to a client this morning, and he said to me, once he got his head around that the metric wasn't what's my market share going to be this year, 21 or 23%, but am I going to be in business in a year's time? He started to feel a lot better about it because he knew what the task was. So I think you have to sort of understand what the task is, and the task, to some extent, is to deal with the situation as you find it and come out of it as strong as you can, and recognise that not everything is going to be perfect. We're living in a world of making trade-offs between, protecting the business, protecting people's jobs, having a return to shareholders, and there are no wrong or right answers, and the future is extremely uncertain. So I think you have to one, recognise the crisis you're not for. Secondly, I don't know if I saw a comment from a US veteran that was imprisoned in Vietnam, and they said, how did you come out after 10 years? And he said, the worst people were the optimists, because they kept thinking they were going to be released. And when they didn't get released, they were like completely depressed.
Oh, yeah.
He said, I just focused on what I was going to do when I got out and set no expectations as to when that would be likely to happen.
Okay.
So I do think that, that's what's important. You have to sort of we will get through this, right? We'll be there in a year's time, and we have to, Mindshare did some research on, what young people are doing, and that, they found they were exercising more, eating better, doing yoga. I'm certainly doing 2 of the 3 things. They didn't ask them for drinking more, which I think is probably
Probably they do too.
we all are as well. But I think you have to look for the best in any situation, and I think that people are going to be impacted financially, clearly, and when you're younger, that's tougher. And I do recognise that I live in a house with a garden, and that's not true of everybody that works at WPP. Mainly certainly the younger people, and I feel for those people, particularly in Manhattan or in London or in other cities, that are less able to get out. But this is not, I don't think, an easy situation for anybody, young or old, married, single, with kids, without kids. We all, it's different in different ways. It's difficult in different ways for everybody, but we will get through it, and life will go on.
Yeah, life will go on. Well, I have a question about it, because normally NextM is really about the future. And of course, we were talking about also today about what is happening now. But looking ahead, if there would be anything good coming out of this crisis, what do you hope will change for the best for the future for marketing?
Yeah, look, I think, I don't know whether society will be a kinder place. Perhaps it will, and one would hope that it will. I think that it's sort of, in a way, now is the future, right? What's happening now is like
that's right.
Of what the future is going to be. Now, I don't know whether people. The one question I get asked in every town hall I do, the most frequent question is, will there be more working from home in the future? Right. So the straightforward answer is yes. There's bound. But I also know a lot of people who are dying to get back into the office.
Yeah, me too.
Definitely.
Yeah, you're probably quite happy to be there today, right? To see you.
Yeah,
for sure.
we're really happy to see each other.
There are a lot of jealous people who are saying, "Oh, you get to go out." Yeah, we get to go out.
Exactly. Anyway, so there's that, right? So I'm sure lots of people will want to be back in the office. So, but at the same time, I think that we will be more tolerant to people working from home. I know that flexible working is one of the biggest barriers to women progressing their careers inside organisations. Yeah. And maybe this massive move towards flexible working will make it easier for women to work more flexibly and make managers more tolerant to people working flexibly. And that may be, a really positive revolution that comes out of that has always been hard to do. I mean, I have to say, historically, I've been a little bit of a cynic about people working from home. Maybe reflects my age or something else. And now, it's different because you can only be at home. No. And actually, after there's only so much Netflix one can watch. So when we're all released, it's not going to be quite the same. But I do think that we will see more people working from home. I think the way WPP operates will be permanently changed. I hope that we will continue to work faster in a more agile way, deliver work quickly for clients. We've understood that speed does not compromise creative quality, that we have to experiment using technology. So I think that will be a good thing, and hopefully we'll work with our clients. And I think the last thing is maybe the partnership and bond that we form with our clients at the current time.
Yeah.
Hopefully that will continue as well. Because I talk to clients, through Microsoft Teams. I spoke to 2 today, 2 CEOs yesterday, and it's not quite like having a meeting, but in 30 minutes, it's not bad.
No, that's true.
Than getting on an aeroplane and flying there. So I think that I hope we'll have more, regular contact with clients, hopefully at a more senior level, because I think more senior clients have suddenly got more involved in communications when it's so important. And that will, that hopefully will stick as well.
Yeah, great.
Thank you.
I think we would like to go because we have questions from the audience and we have not a lot of time left. So I think we should go there.
We have a question from one of our former colleagues, Benny. Hi, Benny. I've seen Hyundai rolling out a platform to order a new car online. Uber Eats can deliver board games nowadays. What is the most market disruptive activity that you have seen?
I think education is probably the most disrupted industry I've seen. I mean, education's basically been the same since the Victorian age. We have long summer holidays so we can go and, work in the fields and harvest the crops. And all of us, and it had to be delivered in a classroom, and all of a sudden it's not. It's being delivered totally differently. And what's interesting is who's enabling it, but Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams. None of the education companies actually are doing it. And so I think it's really interesting at how I think education, universities, I think within WPP, I'd love us to have one world-class learning platform, not the 10. We've got 10 excellent ones now, 20 excellent ones, God forbid. But I think one world-class learning platform. We've launched WPP TV. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, but
not yet.
We've got Tones and I coming on next week from Australia doing a concert for us.
Okay.
So hopefully that will be another way of bringing people from WPP together, and maybe we'll get to a point where we have a sort of a schedule, 24-hour schedule. I don't know, but I think I'm really interested in all the changes in education.
Great. Another question?
There's a question that kind of tunes in with the answer that you just said. We brainstorm, pitch, and meet digitally now. Do you have an example of a WPP project that has been launched during this time that is a good example of a new way of working?
I mean, so much work has been done, in the last 6 weeks. I mean, it's amazing. There's the work done for the World Health Organization. Wavemaker built an app or a service on WhatsApp for the health service. In Italy, we won 6 pitches just in the last, 4 weeks. During the toughest lockdown ever. So it's amazing actually what's being done. I mean, the changes we made at Hogarth, that they could operate CGI machines remotely from home. I think that. I think some of the creative work is are the best examples of what we've done.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I have a last question. Really like to. Okay, what is the first thing you are going to do when the lockdown is over and you open your spaceship and you land back on planet Earth?
Yeah.
What are you going to do, Mark?
Well, we had a lot of discussion in our family about where we're going on holiday. Like everybody.
Yeah.
So encourage people is do take your holiday at the moment, because it's good for your mental health. I mean, don't just think, I have to wait till I can get on an airplane to go on holiday. I take a few days off, because this is relentless. So we will be going on holiday, and my kids have voted for the Maldives, so I'll be picking up. But I think that will be the first thing we'll do.
I can imagine.
Go for a swim in the sea, right?
I love that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would dream for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's good that you say it are very well for many people long days. And of course, you know, I like a lot of innovation. So in this time, you have to fasten up your innovation, be there now, but also when the quarantine is over. Yeah, you have to go to the next level. So everything is fastened up, and I think it's very good that you say also give yourself some mental health, take some days off. I think we should all this take this advice. Well, Mark, thank you very much. It was great that you were in our.
Thanks for having me on, and good luck. Have a great weekend. It's nearly time for a beer, I would imagine.
Yeah, it is. It is for us. An hour later, so it's really time for beer. So thank you very much, and stay safe.
Enjoy your weekend.
Cool.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.